This is the East Idaho Prepcast on IdahoSports.com.
That's right. Welcome in another edition of the East Idaho Prepcast on IdahoSports.com, breaking down districts 5 and 6 each week in the state of Idaho. Brandon Baney joined as always by Sean Kane. Let's see, Sean, I think you're muted. See if we can unmute your mic. There we go.
I'm unmuted now.
Yeah, now you're unmuted. What's
weird.
Up, Sean? How you doing?
I'm great. We had the first shot clock usage ever at Century High School yesterday, so that was kind of neat. Pretty easy, pretty seamless. And it was a girls' game, and we've just decided that it's in there. We're going to use it now, and yeah, it was good. I think it's going to be good for the game of high school basketball. Personally, I can remember when I was in high school in Pocatello. I went to Pocatello High School, and Pocatello boys were really, really good. We went to state. I wasn't on the team. I was watching, and we played Skyline, and Skyline held the ball the whole time, and I think we won like 16-12. But ended up winning state championship, scoring like 60 points per the rest of the games. But that first game almost didn't make it because literally, I don't know how many possessions it is for 16 points, but with that, there was not many more than that.
Yeah, that's like maybe 30 possessions possibly in a game.
Yeah, and it might have been less.
Wow, high efficiency.
Yeah, Skyline held the ball, for like a whole quarter once, I believe, in that game. So I think to watch, at least for the fans, it's way better to have that shot clock. But what do I know?
Yeah, well, we're going to find out because we are doing our girls basketball preview here on IdahoSports.com. We've got the previews up on the homepage, conference breakdowns of every single league across the state, preseason coaches polls for every conference and league in the state of Idaho, players to watch, all that great stuff. It is right on the homepage at IdahoSports.com. We're going to do the same here, break down what's going on in East Idaho girls hoops, even though for some teams we're already like 4 or 5 games in because of the overlap between the seasons. But we finally have a chance now to talk some girls hoops. And so I'm pretty excited about this, Sean. Are you ready?
Oh, always.
Okay. Let's start at 5A. We'll just work our way down. At the 5A classification, the preseason coaches poll was pretty split. Rigby and Thunder Ridge both tied for first. Highland was picked to finish third. Madison picked fourth. So far, I think that's probably pretty spot on. Rigby 6-0. Thunder is 4-0. Highland 3-2. Madison 0-5. And between Rigby and Thunder, Sean, boy, those are two really good teams. I don't know how you pick.
Initially I would have kind of went with Thunder Ridge just because I've seen, Aspen Caldwell, Kennedy Stainquist. I've seen these ladies play for a few years now, and they all I feel like they've been at Thunder Ridge for like 8 years. They were good when they were younger, and they are really good now. And I think Thunder Ridge will be a super tough team. But I just everyone said when they saw Rigby girls at state last year, how they were just very impressed with how that team was running their game. And man, that's going to be a tough conference, but I like the experience of Thunder Ridge, but Rigby is also, they're 6-0 right now. Not many teams can say they start out 6-0, and most of them are 4A opponents, if I'm not mistaken, but still some really good 4A opponents up there in District 6. So I think that will be, it's kind of a race there. Luckily, they usually get another play-in game, and both Rigby and Thunder Ridge placed last year. So I would imagine they're going to look to do the same this year.
Yeah, so let's start with Thunder. You mentioned Aspen Caldwell. She is committed to Idaho to play for the Vandals, so D1 prospect. They also have Marley Spencer, who's committed to play at Montana Western, just up the road in Dillon, Montana. And Stenquist, as you said, could really go anywhere. Rigby, Coach Todd Barber has done a fantastic job with that Rigby program. Cambry Barber is a fantastic inside-out player, as is Kylie Danzy. Rigby is so good. You talked about both teams trying to navigate their way to state, and both teams were able to last year. It will be a multi-bid district in 2022. but the second place team will have to play a play-in game against, I think it's either the 5th or the 6th place team from District 3. Either way, I think you can book it. Thunder and Rigby both probably going to get the state.
Yeah, you could see that, splitting regular season and playing a couple times in the tournament. It'll be both teams will be ready, being able to play each other, I think. And and I gotta see Highland last night too. And Highland's kind of a young team with some good pieces, and they're not going to be any pushover. And Madison is, they're always a strong team, but they're a little down this year, I think, on the girls' ends of things. I think they all played volleyball.
Yes. And so for Highland and Madison, we'll see if they're able to break through the fray. For Rigby and Thunder, we have to wait until January 18th. They play twice. Yeah, they play twice in the span of about 10 days at the very end of the regular season. So we will keep our eyes out for that. Let's move to 4A girls basketball. I think the story has to start up in District 6, up in the High Country Conference, where you've got a Skyline team that shocked the world last year, right? They upset Blackfoot in the semifinals to earn a spot in the championship game. Blackfoot lost almost everybody from that team. Skyline, conversely, returns quite a bit of talent. And so because of that, the preseason poll looks like this. It's Skyline 1, Blackfoot 2. And I'm inclined to agree with those rankings.
Yeah, I mean, I think Skyline probably brings back the most, probably the most kind of experience. But District 6, they've all placed too. You've got a very competitive district where teams are placing at state, not just making it, but placing it, and like Skyline making a deep run, and playing Blackfoot for the 18th, 30th time or whatever it was by then. Yeah, and then you've got a team which I think, and I talked about this the other day, is I think Shelley's really good. I think I would not look past Shelley, and Hillcrest is also very tough. But man, I'm a big fan of the Shelley team after seeing them play, and I hope to get to see more of the teams play. So I'm a little biased right now.
Yeah, and really, I do think that 5 of the 6 teams all could have a chance to beat up on each other. The preseason poll was Skyline 1, Blackfoot 2, Hillcrest 3, Shelley 4, Idaho Falls 5, and then Bonneville 6. Maybe Idaho Falls and Bonneville are a half tier below everybody else, but man, that top 4, you want to talk about star power. Every single team has a player that can go get a bucket. For Skyline, you have the Shippen sisters, Shay Shippen and Kaisa Shippen. Amy Basic is back as well. For Blackfoot, the only returning starter is SB Vergara, but we know she can get hot from the 3-point line. Can Marley Piper elevate her game as she goes from a reserve to a starter? And of course, Blackfoot is a great coach in Ramey Odom. Skyline is a great coach as well in Ty Keck. Hillcrest has the Kessler sisters, Quinley and Lexi. They're both really talented. And Brooke Cook is back for Hillcrest as well. And then Shelley maybe has the best 1-2 punch of any team in the conference, with Brindley Cannon, who's a fantastic guard, and then Mia Williams, who's been starting. I mean, they've both been starting since day one of their freshman years. And then for Idaho Falls, there's Callan Wood. Bonneville has Alyssa Harris. I mean, this is going to be a fun conference to watch all year long.
Yeah, and I got to see Idaho Falls. Idaho Falls just has a lot of really good pieces too. They're kind of a scrappy, slow it down a little bit team, and put you in positions you don't want to be. So Idaho Falls, they're going to be good too. And Bonneville has some good players as well. And I mean, what a hard to rank that preseason. I mean, you kind of just look at how they did, last year coming back into it, that's kind of what you got. But Blackfoot lost a lot. And I think it'll be interesting to see how their season pans out in that conference.
2 bids available to state from District 6. 4A this year, Sean, gets no play-in games. I guess after all of the hand-wringing from some of the southeastern Idaho coaches and fans over more play-in games, they said, you know what, 4A, you will get no play-in games this year to state. Not a single one. So it's all just
No comment
even number of
at
bids
this time,
per...
sir.
Right. So yes, 2 bids from District 6, only 1 bid from District 5, Sean, and this is going to be equally unpredictable, but for different reasons, because Preston, Pocatello, and Century all lost a ton to graduation. All of them are having to kind of rebuild / reload on the fly here.
Yeah, so I tried to put this together as best I could with the limited amount of games. So Pocatello beat Highland, and it was a close game. Highland beat Preston pretty easily and really shot the ball lights out down in Preston. And then Century just lost to Highland last night by 4 points in a really back and forth game. So if that helps, which it didn't help me at all, is I think it's going to be really, really close. Preston has a new head coach. They lost a lot of seniors that were really good, but I think they're going to be good. Pocatello's got kind of a lot of depth, I would say. And then Century's just kind of really tall, and, you can't teach height. So sometimes that helps with Taylor Smith and Addie Butler and Reagan Trolson. They're one of the tallest teams I've seen. And so you just got a lot of contrasts, and man, it might be a coin flip in the conference this year. I think all teams will have a shot, and then they're going to play each other twice at the end of the season, and then they're going to play each other twice again in the tournament, and it'll be definitely interesting.
Could come down to which coach can make the best adjustments. You've got a brand new coach in Camille Coons at Preston. Sonny Evans has been at Pocatello for a couple of years now. And of course, Chris Schuler at Century, the dean of coaches in District 5. And then they each have interesting player makeups as well. Century has, the best overall player in Taylor Smith. Where did she commit to again, Sean?
Weber State.
Okay. Division I school.
Yep.
For Pocatello, they've got some good complementary pieces. Do they have that alpha, that person that you can point to and say, I need a bucket, go get it? I think they're still figuring that out. And then Preston, they've got Emma Coons, who's a great player, but 3 different players they were counting on to be varsity contributors all suffered knee injuries. Reese Swainston, Addie Romney, and Haven Holyoke all suffered ACL injuries over the summer. So Preston, a little snake bitten with injuries.
Yeah, that's rough. For Pocatello, I will tell you, Taylor Bunderson, she's pretty good. She can get the scoring done. I think for Pocatello, it's a young team, and it'll be interesting who, like you said, who will take that lead to get the scoring done. Taylor Rogers was also pretty good last year. And what Pokey did is it really didn't matter. However the game went, whoever was kind of getting the shots in, they went with, and that really worked for them. But as we know, when it comes to districts and stuff, it's sometimes you just need people to rely on. So I think it'll be interesting to see there.
Yeah. Pocatello and Preston both tied for first in our preseason coaches poll. Century was picked to finish third. Let's go to 3A hoops, and let's start in District 6 with the Mountain Rivers Conference, where Sugar Salem has kind of, held the top position for such a long time. They played Teton in an all District 6 championship last year. Sugar did win that contest to win the 3A championship. But this year in our preseason coaches poll, it's been flip-flopped. Teton was picked first. Sugar was picked second. South Fremont was picked to finish third.
Yeah, and you've just seen those battles all year already between Sugar and Teton, and I guess there's a lot of people in Teton now, because what I'm hearing is they might be moving up to 4A, which I had no idea, but I guess their numbers have increased, and that might be a little indication of why their teams are better. But yeah, I guess Teton's on the verge of moving up. But yeah, really good teams. And, if you think girls sports and basketball, Sugar Salem's always in the mix there. And yeah, but I mean, that conference is just going to be as heated as well. And Teton brings, they bring back some players. So man, that's going to be tough.
Yeah, it's pretty interesting where Teton's got a new first-year head coach in Patrick Hogan. They bring back Grace Hogan, Reese Coons, Morgan, Johnson they were all conference performers a year ago. Sugar Salem, obviously Crystal Daly, a longtime head coach, fantastic job with the Diggers. They bring back probably the best overall player in the conference, Kennedy Gillette. She's a dynamic scorer. They also have Meg Fillmore and some other complementary pieces. But Coach Daly said in our preseason interview that Marlo Herford wrote up, she said, "We lost a lot. This is by far the youngest and most inexperienced team I've ever had. So can Teton take advantage? We'll see." South Fremont also breaking in a brand new head coach in Brooke Bailey, and they will kind of lean on Brienne Bailey and Berkeley Yancey. So I don't know. It's going to be pretty interesting to watch these teams as they duke it out. One thing's pretty clear right now. District 6, I think, is a step ahead of District 5. Teton already has a win over American Falls. Sugar already has a win over Marsh Valley. And if we go down to District 5, American Falls, Marsh Valley, Snake River, were all picked to finish in a three-way tie for first place. They all received in our, because we send a ballot to each coach, and then they vote, 1, 2, 3, and we award points based on that. And they all ended up with the same amount of points. I think personally, I lean Snake River. They've got a really awesome point guard in Riley Edlifson, but American Falls is also always a very well-coached team.
Yeah, and then Marsh Valley, I was going to say too, Marsh Valley always kind of finds a way to be pretty good at girls basketball too. And I think that will be I don't know where I want to lean. I kind of want to lean Marsh Valley just because I feel I've seen Marsh Valley play. They always have a really good system in place. They're always they're well coached, but Snake River always seems to have some sort of shooter or a really good guard too.
Yeah, and so Marsh Valley has a new head coach in Ashley Baker. She was previously the coach at Declo. She is now at Marsh Valley. They have Camry Campbell and Sarah Sutton that they'll lean on. American Falls maybe has better balance. Like Snake's got the best player in Riley Edlifson, but you look at what American Falls brings back: Paige Adair, Zoe Griggs, Sienna Cox, Macy Hall. Really, the one key player they lost was Raquel Ferringer. She was the point guard last year, but otherwise, Stephen Grigg is a good coach at American Falls. I don't know. I'd go American Falls, Snake, coin flip, and then Marsh Valley maybe a half step behind that. That's how I'd see it.
And then when you look at American Falls, they have a bunch of seniors, and that I think that could be the difference there. So, but I'm gonna still go with the Screaming Eagles. I'll be the controversy this week.
Snake is 3-1, American Falls 2-1, Marsh Valley 2-2 so far on the young season, and Snake especially has a win over Kimberly, 51-27. Kimberly is kind of the favorite over in District 4, and they lost to Soda Springs in overtime, 52-48. And we're going to talk about Soda Springs right now and what a good program they are as we transition to 2A basketball. Let's start in District 5, the Southeast Idaho Conference, where Soda Springs has dominated this league for so long. Now, last year, they had such a rigorous schedule that by the time they got to state, their record was like at 500 or maybe a game above. But observers who knew and didn't look at just the win-loss record knew that Soda Springs challenged themselves with the schedule, and they were well prepared for state play. So Soda Springs, to me, is kind of the favorite. When you look at the coaches poll, they were picked to finish first. Bear Lake and Westside were picked to finish tied for second. Aberdeen was fourth. Malad was fifth. Aberdeen got all the way to the championship game last year before they fell to Coal Valley Christian, and then they lost a lot to Graduation. But what do you make of this league, Sean?
Well, I'm just looking at the poll, and I'm sure Westside and Bear Lake love to see a tie. I'm sure both. I'll probably get in trouble for that, but I thought that was pretty funny. But no, Soda Springs, man, they've made it to the state tournament. I think it was a record number of years in a row, maybe for girls, if I'm not mistaken. But yeah, they're gonna be pretty solid. I like how they're pretty kind of fast, and like you said, they play that tough season. They come in ready to go, and they always have they always have a sophomore that's now a junior that's really good. Soda Springs really has a program. I think they know how to kind of keep that going. And then Westside and Bear Lake are always very competitive, and that might be a coin flip. It'll probably be one of those. They beat them early in the season, and then they come back, and the other team beats them late in the season, and then you go to the district, and then like you said, Aberdeen lost a lot of people, and Malad, Malad used to be pretty solid at basketball, but when you look at a conference like that's a pretty difficult conference. There's a lot of good athletes throughout that in every sport, so it kind of just came to me like there's a lot of good teams out of that 5 teams. Those teams are always competitive.
Yeah. So with Soda Springs, they bring back Janetti Garbett and Zippy Thompson, among others. We have to talk about with Soda Springs. They have a new coach this year, Josh Zentner, who previously had coached at Bonneville and I believe won a state championship at Bonneville. Right? Does that sound right, Sean?
With girls?
Yeah, but Bonneville girls won it a couple years ago, didn't they? The 4A title. They were really good.
They had like 5. Yeah, they were really good.
Yeah, so Josh Zentner is the new coach at Soda Springs because longtime coach Wade Schwaneveld, coached for 20 plus years at Soda Springs, one of the winningest coaches in Idaho history, but some very disturbing allegations came out over the spring and the summer. Schwaneveld had to resign his position from the school. He's currently facing, and East Idaho News .com has done a fantastic job reporting on this, but he's facing 20 counts of rape, and there's allegations of inappropriate relationships with students, and it's very everyone's innocent until proven guilty, certainly. But on the surface, doesn't look like a great situation there. So I'm hoping that Soda Springs can kind of turn a new page and
rise above, move on, and not let that affect them moving forward, because they've got to have their own, it's their program now, it's his program, and they can kind of just move forward. And sometimes you just got to put on your best hat and go do it, and they know how to do that down there in Soda, that's for sure.
Yeah, so a new coach at Soda, new coach at Aberdeen as Andrew Jolly takes over after being the JV coach the past couple of seasons. New coach at Bear Lake, Ken Wells. And there's a new coach in Malad this year as well. So 4 of the 5 teams breaking in new coaches. Bridget Checketts at Westside is the only returning coach that's actually been there before. So it's another interesting dynamic.
It's kind of starting to be like football. I feel like football this year, we had a ton of first-year head coaches.
Yeah.
I think you'll start seeing that too. I think the time of where you have, coaches there for extended periods of times, I just don't feel that that's going to be the norm anymore. Kind of how just the landscape of things are. I could be wrong. There's not many dinosaurs like me out there anymore. So, but I see people moving, and I think sometimes it's good maybe just to get a different perspective on things. And I think it's kind of a good thing. You don't need to be somewhere 30 years for really any reason, but I'll be here for 30 years, but
but we talked about this on a lot of other podcasts this week. I went and counted this year, Sean. There are 50 new head coaches in place for girls varsity basketball. That's not sustainable. And it's a combination of the juice isn't worth the squeeze, the time investment. Coaches have families, they have personal lives. You have to deal with parents now. Sometimes you have to deal with administrators. Sometimes you have to deal with the players. There's just a lot more that coaches have to deal with these days. And a lot of them are going, you know what, it's not really worth it. And so I really hope that we do get some coaches that stick around for 30 years. We need some stability.
Yeah. That's the other side of it too. I always like seeing new people enter it, because it's nice to have some new ideas, and 99% of the time I'm right, but that 1% I'll allow other people to give me ideas. No, but that's good too. But yeah, I get it. And coaches don't have, I would say coaches don't have like the say that they used to, like if your coach says it, it's like, kind of a big deal. Now it's kind of like, it's just a coach, and hopefully we can change that perspective a little bit. But Yeah, I see what you're saying. That's a lot. I didn't know there was that many. That is a ton.
Yeah, 50. Pretty crazy. Let's move to District 6, the Nuclear Conference in 2A. This one seems pretty clear cut. Ririe is the favorite. They were picked 1, North Fremont 2, Firth 3, West Jefferson 4, Salmon 5. Ririe, the overwhelming favorite. We saw what they did during volleyball season. A lot of those same athletes play basketball. McKinley Bond, Maddie Andreessen, Brianna Scott, and Jake Landon's a very good coach for Ririe.
Yeah, Ririe, comes back with a lot of experience. They had a great record. And those 3 people you mentioned are all seniors, and I think that's going to be a tough team. This conference again is another tough conference with North Fremont and West Jefferson. You get some good teams in there.
Definitely. And in fact, Ririe is going to host an invitational this weekend, the Ririe Bulldog Shootout. It's going to be girls basketball teams. Let's see. I can pull up who's going to be competing here. Ririe will be there, obviously. Ambrose is coming over from the Treasure Valley. The Pocatello C team will be competing there. Butte County, Cole Valley Christian, Marsh Valley, Parma, Teton, and West Jefferson. That's a nice little tournament.
Yeah, that's got a good mix. You got a little east, a little west. You got a little magic. That'll be good. That's good. I always like the tournaments. You get a good barometer of the teams and get to see different looks, and it's really nice. I like them early too because it gets a little sloppy and kind of fun that way.
Yeah, definitely. Ririe is off to a 3-2 start this year. The Bulldogs have lost to Teton and Soda Springs. And they really lost to Soda Springs 65-32. So Ririe, I guess, can see where they stack up in terms of the hierarchy in 2A basketball statewide. North Fremont brings back Emery Lenz, Ben Lenz, longtime head coach there. They also return some other key pieces from a year ago. Hallie Orm comes back as well. When you look at Firth, they've got Daytona Folkman, Bridget Leslie, West Jefferson's got Jaylee Ball. Salmon's breaking in a brand new head coach in Raymond Wood. And I don't know, they're kind of the unknown in this whole thing.
Yeah, and sometimes when you're just, the expectations are the roof, and you don't really have that roof, you never know what can happen and make some upsets happen and some different things like that. So it'll be interesting to see what Salmon can pull out of the river.
Oh, funny, real funny guy. Okay, let's go 1A D1. In the District 5-6, you've got the preseason poll looks like this. Grace picked 1, Butte County 2, Chalice 3. Butte County was the team that got to state last year. In fact, they were undefeated until they got to the semifinals where they lost to Prairie. And then longtime head coach Carla Hansen retired in the offseason. Richard Hansen, who had been the JV coach the past several years, is now the head coach. Butte County is having to pretty much reset, though. They lost their top 6 players from last year. They were all seniors, so it's a new cast of characters. Meanwhile, for Grace, boy, they bring back a lot of good players. Tenley Walker, Sydney Smith, and a really good coach in Kyle Christensen.
Yeah, and Grace is off to a 3-1 start. They lost the West Side, but they beat Rockland and Aberdeen already. So I mean, Grace is just already played some pretty good opponents and on track to be kind of take over that conference from Butte County, who's been there for kind of been in that driver's seat for a while.
Yeah, and Grace won the state title. It was only 2 years ago when Grace won the 1A D1 championship, so they are certainly the favorites there. Chalice has a new head coach as well, Jordan Orecki. Hopefully I'm saying that right, but Jordan Orecki is the new coach at Chalice. And then let's tackle this gigantic conference at the 1A D2 level, the Rocky Mountain Conference, Districts 5 and 6. 9 teams in this conference, Sean. So they are going to play everybody. They can't play everybody twice because that would be your entire schedule. So only one of the games will count in the conference standings. And I found that on a lot of the schedules, it's the early games. It's like the first time you're playing the team is the one that counts in the league standings. So
Interesting.
it's kind of interesting. But the preseason poll was Rockland 1, Leadore 2, Mackey 3, North Gem 4, Showban 5, Water Springs 6, Grace Lutheran 7, Taylor's Crossing 8, Clark County 9.
So it's kind of the same situation like volleyball, right? It's very. Will they have extra bids? Did they figure that out yet? We might need to help them out. But
they get 2.
Yeah. And Rockland just has been just strong overall in sports lately. And I really like Rockland. They've got some good players coming out of there. Can they come back and win this? What did they go 24-1 last year? And all the way to the title game. So Rockland's super strong. I believe their head coach Vern Nelson has been there a long time.
Very long time.
Yeah, because we've gotten to do that division one time at state, and Rockland was there, and it was pretty interesting to talk to Vern. And so he's been there a long time. And then you've got a lot. This conference is just interesting to me with the teams with like Leadore and Sadie Bird, and you got Mackey. Mackey's always kind of an interesting team. I always like the Mackey Miners, and yeah.
So yeah, to me, it's better to look at this in terms of tiers. I've got Rockland in a tier of its own, just because they've got the Wilson twins. Taylor Boyer is back. They just got a lot of pieces. In the next tier, then I would put Leadore and Mackey. And to me, those are the 3 teams that'll be fighting for the 2 spots to get to state this year. Leadore, you mentioned, with Sadie Bird. Mackey's got Megan Moore back, who's really tough to stop down low. And then in the next tier, I've got North Gem, Showban, and Water Springs. I've got them all kind of clustered together in a tier. When you look at individual players that will stand out for those teams, North Gem's got Hayden Corda, Water Springs has Caitlin Severson, and they've got, Water Springs has a new head coach this year that they're breaking in as well. There's a lot of new coaches, like we talked about, around the entire state, but Water Springs, that's on the boys' side. Dave Faulkner is still the girls' coach at Water Springs. And then in the next tier, and then Showban as well. Showban's got a new coach in Nathaniel Lowley. He's coached a lot of like club basketball, so we'll see if he can help out there. Grace Lutheran is kind of in a tier of their own. Traditionally, Grace Lutheran has been a really strong team, but head coach Ryan Strello says, he's got 6 players this year, which can make things difficult at times. And then Taylor's Crossing and Clark County are kind of in a tier of their own as well. Low numbers, new to the game of basketball. We'll see.
Yeah, you've got kind of like the old guard, some teams that have been there for a while, and then we kind of got these younger new teams that are kind of just entering their own. So you've got a really good mix in this Rocky Mountain Conference, but I definitely think it's kind of Rockland's to take this year. And maybe Leadore or Mackey can give them some run for their money.
Yeah, it'll be a lot of fun to watch them all compete and duke it out over the season. That is for sure. So, all right, we did it, Sean. We got through our girls basketball preview. Nicely done.
I know. Thank you. I've been already involved in the girls basketball. So it's like I said, we have the shot clock going. I think that'll be an interesting dynamic for what teams use it, don't use it, what refs know how it works, what refs don't. It's like they said it was like 7-page thing in the book to read about, and I didn't even know all the rules, but that was interesting, and just kind of learning that. And yeah, and then boys basketball starts today for Century. They play Thunder Ridge, so a little East Idaho matchup there. Should be kind of interesting. Both kind of teams lost a lot of people, so they'll be kind of Ryan Frost, Coach Ryan Frost, essentially put it this way: it'd be kind of like who wants to go out and not kind of be a wiener about it and kind of just take over because he kind of got two young teams, like, oh, I'm hurt or whatever. He kind of said who's going to go out and kind of take care of business because it's two, Thunder Ridge kind of lost a lot of people and Century had a little bit of a turnover too. So it'd be kind of interesting to see that, but I can't believe it's already boys basketball too.
Yeah, Ryan Frost, great coach, straight shooter as always. He never makes excuses about anything.
No,
even last year with the one bid to state, he was just like, yeah, you know what, it is what it is.
He's the only one. Like everyone's fired up about it. The janitor's fired up about it. Everyone's fired, and he's kind of like, yeah, he just got to win to make it. Yep.
Yeah,
he's pretty much the only one not. He didn't really take it like such a he just is like, we still got to play and whatever. So I always, he's better than me in that. I like to get fired up about things, but I can learn something.
Yeah, he's pretty steady, Eddie. And yeah, after reading up on the shot clock, Sean, you might be teaching the class next year to everybody else around the state when it's time to implement it for real.
Nope, that won't be me. It was just like things like if it's a defensive foul, do you set it back to 20 or instead of 35? And I just thought it hit the rim, you reset it. I don't need the details.
Yeah, there's a lot there. Yeah, we don't need the details. That's for sure. Okay. So speaking of details though, girls basketball preview stuff is all live on our site, IdahoSports.com. Boys basketball previews are being added every day. We're getting more and more in. Those should be up and fully in by the start of next week. Wrestling coverage has started. We had our preseason polls this year. The IdahoSports.com wrestling staff will be doing team rankings every week, the top 5 for each classification, and then a top 5, all classifications, 5A all the way down to 1A. Who are the pound for pound, the 5 best teams? We'll also rank the top 5 girls wrestling teams in the state each week. And we're bringing back the individual rankings this year. We'll be ranking the individual wrestlers by their weight class, which is going to be so exciting that we're able to bring that back to you. And Sean, we are launching a new podcast starting next Tuesday night. It'll be every Tuesday night at 8 p.m. Mountain Time live. It is a wrestling only podcast, the Matt Chat Prepcast. I think the wrestling fans are going to love it.
Yeah. Wrestling kind of gets the back of the gym during basketball, right? It's not always fully on display. So, here's the deal. Idaho produces some great wrestlers that we probably don't get enough recognition to. And I think it'll be a great opportunity for the state and obviously us at Idaho Sports to kind of get that out there because we have great wrestling programs. And I will say I'm guessing there wasn't a lot of turnover in the wrestling coaches. It always seems like the wrestling coaches are the same.
Yes.
And probably why they reproduce really good wrestlers. But for the most part, your wrestling coaches they've been there since I was in high school. I feel like sometimes. So that'll be great. That'll be great to get that out there and get people tuned in and create a little buzz. I think wrestling, our first home wrestling duel for Century is tomorrow. So
yeah, wrestling season starts this week as well, just like boys basketball, and girls basketball, of course, has already been off and running. We will get off and running and let you get on with your day, Sean. Thank you for popping on and doing this again. We appreciate it.
Absolutely. I know it's fun, and people always ask where we are if we don't come on. So, I just got to answer the calls.
Yeah, you're like Batman. The signal flashes in the sky, and
we did talk about District 6 today, Brandon. I just, popping that out there. We had a little District 6 discussion there, so I'm there. I've seen a lot of District 6 teams already this year.
In most of the bigger classifications, 5A, 4A, 3A in girls basketball, District 6 is definitely ahead of District 5, and so that's where the conversation has to start in East Idaho. Certainly, when you get to 2A, 1A. Then it gets a little more even between the two districts. But a lot of good basketball to be played in both districts 5 and 6 all year long. And we'll be here to break it down for you each and every week. Thanks for tuning in, everybody. For Sean Kane, I'm Brandon Baney. This has been the East Idaho Prepcast on IdahoSports.com.